Lauren Ferruccio.
Carol Locke. Rebecca Johnson.
Ann Pierce.
Pam McLeod.
Tim Broderick.
Matt Jazokis.
John MacArthur.
Heidi Duford.
Can you all hear us? Yeah? Okay. All right. Agenda review. Any additions?
I have handouts to go with your technology and building and grounds reports. They're on the table in front of you.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as presented. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to approve the minutes of April 10th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are in our first public input. Do we have any public input? No? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public input. Informational items, you have enrollments in your packet. And financials. Are there any questions on enrollments or financials, or anything that you'd like to note, Heidi?
Sure. So since this, the April finances, I printed out a current one, and we are, for surplus, down to about $753,000. Still working on it, encumbering things. Most of this, I will say, is salaries and benefits. So I'm going to get a clearer picture of that, and we'll know for sure.
Okay. When you said down to, I got worried for a minute, but.
Well,
no.
that one, it's a lot higher, if you notice, but I've been having everybody encumber their funds.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. All right, the New Hampshire School Board resolutions. Just a reminder that they've moved their annual meeting from January up to, I think it's in October usually. And so if the board, anybody from the board would like to submit a resolution, now is the time. And this is for the School Boards Association to consider adopting the resolution by its membership. And should they adopt it, the resolution, then they would advocate for it during the legislative process next year. So it's worth looking at their website to see what their resolutions are. And a reminder, Lauren, you're new, the School Boards Association is open to you as a resource. You can call them anytime, ask questions. Okay. There's a bunch of trainings. They have an attorney on staff, so they're open to all of us. Really great group. And I have, for everybody's information, resigned my seat on the School Boards Association Executive Board. I'm no longer on that board. Got rid of something. Woohoo. Superintendent's report.
No memo for my report tonight, just a few notes. It is Teacher Appreciation Week for those who weren't already aware of that. I should say Staff Appreciation Week. It's for everybody. And I guess even though it's not my first year here at ACS, it feels like it this week because during the last couple of years due to the pandemic, I didn't see what I'm seeing from the PTSA here, which is really wonderful and exceptional. And I'm not a staff member, and certainly felt it today, and I know there are plans for every day this week, so thank you to the PTSA. A reminder that the Education and Enrichment Expo that Mr. Papasino and Mr. Bickford came in and talked about at a previous meeting is happening on May 25th, so please save the date for that evening. I'm looking forward to it. And finally, this is a little bit of a late announcement. I'll send you all an email if you like with a little more information, but the State Board of Education is going to move its meeting from an office building in Concord to the auditorium at Prospect Mountain High School this Thursday, May 11th, and they start at either 9 or 10, and if you're interested in coming, again, let me know, I'll send you an email, and I'll let you know whether it's 9 or 10. Our robotics team is going to do a demonstration that day. The state board recently accommodated a request from the New Hampshire Superintendent's Association to provide a little more time for us to give reports at their meetings, so they're now scheduling on their agenda some time for the NHSAA, and this month, I'm representing the association and talking about robotics programs in New Hampshire, so it seemed like a great time to have them come over. It means that our kids will be right there and they'll be able to come out and run the robot and talk about it, and I'm sure that the state board members would rather hear about it from the kids than from me. So we'll probably do a little bit of both.
That's awesome.
IEP meeting that week.
Okay. Curriculum, Matt?
Thank you. In your packet, you have my report, just a couple highlights. We're finalizing the details for some professional development collaboration with ACS and BES in mathematics, taking a look at the standards and the assessments in each of the math programs to see the similarities and the differences. Again, when we think about standards and assessments, by unpacking the standards, we can identify the knowledge and skills that our students need to master in order to achieve these goals, and then assessments help us to evaluate that progress. The workshop will be held during the week of June 26th through the 30th, probably a couple, 3 days, and we'll have some more information coming forward in the next week or so. We're looking at a representative from each school, K through 5, and then 6 through 8, again, focused in on math for this particular collaboration. In the 23-24 school year, we'll be looking at doing an ELA curriculum review. There's been a lot of talk in the news with the science of reading, and we'll take a look at engaging in that curriculum review process, both here at ACS and BES, and then we'll have a few members from Prospect Mountain as part of that as well. The whole process is to take a look at doing a comprehensive evaluation of the existing curriculum, looking at its content, structure, delivery, and the outcomes. This may include review of textbooks, instructional materials, assessments, and teaching methods, and then we'll take a look at and see what comes out of that conversation as to the next steps from there. Again, looking for volunteers to be part of that group. And lastly, New Hampshire SAS, our state assessments starting up, I believe next week throughout the month of May. Again, grades 3-8 will participate in ELA and math, and then 5 and 8 will do the New Hampshire science portion of this. We've begun some preliminary conversations, and again, we'll talk a lot more about potentially looking at doing the ELA portion in April, moving forward, and then math and science. There's a lot that goes on for these kids, and they're testing pieces of it. If we're looking at NEWA, and then they're taking 3 tests in grades 3 through 8, trying to spread that out a little bit, rather than putting it all together in a couple weeks. So we'll look at what the benefits and not benefits of that moving forward. But that won't happen this year. That'll be looked at for next year. So.
Thank you. Information technology report.
I have a handout in front of you regarding a Chromebook. The title is Chromebook Replacement Cycle, but I think this is a good example of, on our agendas we have a technology report, we have a finance section, we have a curriculum report, sometimes we talk about policy, and I think this touches all of those things, and I think that's a good thing. I think that when we're functioning well as a school system, these things should all work together. So I'm not sure exactly what the situation was in each school prior to the pandemic, but I know that during and since, we're all one-to-one schools. I do know that the high school was already one-to-one at all grade levels, but I know that not every elementary was all the way down to kindergarten, but that everybody did when it became necessary. So in our budgets now, that creates a situation that I think would cause any school system to reflect on its purchasing processes. And in our case, we had different systems, of course, like with anything else, or a lot of the other things we've been dealing with. So we had we were buying Chromebooks either every 3 years or every 4 years, depending on which of our schools. We were leasing versus purchasing. We were purchasing here at ACS. And then those replacements have to be budgeted. There's a Chromebook replacement cycle line in the technology function of the operating budget every year, and it's a pretty sizable expense. And what we're doing is we're purchasing a classroom set. So if the typical grade level is 50 to 60 students, then IT would create that budget line based on whatever that average class size, probably plus a few number, is. And then depending on the replacement cycle, how many classroom sets do we need to buy for the kids moving into whatever grade level we're replacing at, which they're then going to use for as many years as we're planning on. The decisions we've made kind of across the school system are to no longer lease any Chromebooks. It doesn't make sense. It might have at one time in the past, but it really doesn't anymore. If you want more detail, you can ask for it. And that's not a change here. We're going to start buying Chromebooks on a 4-year replacement cycle, and that is a change, I think, for maybe both elementary schools from the previous practice of replacing them every 3 years. That means that we'll be buying 2 classroom sets a year, never 3. Probably one to serve in grades 1 through 4 and another in grades 5 through 8. And then we'll actually plan to keep serviceable devices for a 5th year and put them on carts for kindergarten classes, where if kindergartners are using Chromebooks too much, I'd like to understand why we think that's appropriate. And in that vein, that brings us to the curriculum part of this. We've already, Mr. Jazokis has facilitated this work, brought together a representative group of some teachers and instructional technologists to start talking about when we hand students these devices. And again, most schools did this under emergency circumstances a few years ago, right? You were driving up the driveway and somebody was handing a computer through your car window. So there wasn't a lot of instruction necessarily to go with that, but that's not our situation now. And we really should have a plan and consistent curriculum that supports the use of technology that is age appropriate by grade level. This started for us in the fall, this conversation we started in the fall with folks from all the schools, so that whatever we do, we can do consistently across the system, and when students leave 8th grade and are prepared for high school, we can feel like they're prepared with a common knowledge base. I think that the security and etiquette pieces of this are particularly important. This also includes, and I don't know that we have a conclusion yet, but this also includes at what point do we expect teachers to be using Google Classroom and students to be accessing assignments and maybe turning them in electronically using Google Classroom. Maybe that's not 2nd or 3rd grade. I would submit that it should not be. And likewise, when do we introduce email? And prior to the grade level we decide to introduce email at with supporting curriculum, students shouldn't have access to email. So we may be farther along even than I'm making it sound, because Matt's been working on that with this group, but that's really related to this whole use of Chromebooks. I mean, it's handing kids devices without support and instruction just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And if I could add,
Please.
given all that we've seen since the pandemic especially, we're certainly having a lot of conversations statewide about maybe the devices are being used too much in schools. So really making sure that teachers understand that just because they have them doesn't mean they have to use them all day long. Just because the district bought them, I think some teachers feel obligated, and that's not the case. And sort of what's too much, and how do we balance that out for kids?
Well, that's the perfect segue to the last point on my memo here, which is about, and I'll bring this to you with more detail, but a lot of people in the communities have asked me, and I take the bullet, this has been me this year. You may have noticed we didn't have any remote learning days, and we did miss, in this building, 8 days of school, and we're going to be here until June 22nd. I'm sorry, everybody. But I do think that one of my roles is to assimilate a lot of feedback from a lot of people, including parents. And I haven't been sold since our experiences during the pandemic on the idea that remote learning was particularly effective, particularly for younger and younger children. So at the earliest grade levels, it just doesn't seem appropriate to me to expect students to get a lot done. In fact, some people might argue that it's an assignment for the parents when particularly young children have to be in remote classrooms. So what I'm going to propose in the fall across the school system that we have here is that if we have remote days next year, which I would like to be able to do, we pick a grade level above which they will have Google Meet meetings and Google Classroom assignments, and the younger grade levels prepare Blizzard bags, like some schools used to, prior to the advent of remote learning. And when we have a remote day, students in, for example, it might be grades K through 4, might use Blizzard bags, and students in grades 5th grade and up might have remote classes. We'll have to work a few things out in order to make that a real proposal for you, but that's my intention. On the summer project, I think we covered it all. Any questions? Matt, do you have anything to add to where we are with the E-rate funded summer infrastructure project for this building that the board approved last month?
I mean, the main thing is alignment, and we're trying to make all the services be the same. So one of the big things would be, obviously, the switching Wi-Fi, when we use Extreme, like we do the we're all on campuses on one instance. So it would be, any staff member will be joining PMSAU, SSID, they don't send GPS, and it'll be the same password. So someone will prospect is going on, and vice versa, and so on. I think that's just the thing that's getting out there. And then we're aligning the firewalls and VPN. Just unifying everything. I think it will be a big upgrade as far as connectivity in this building. We got a lot of Wi-Fi is huge. My main thing is getting everything all together for our office, and it also made my job easier. Different systems for each building, so that's about it. And then the phone unification.
It's coming up.
That will be huge.
So speaking of phones, what Matt just mentioned, I actually have that under buildings and grounds tonight.
Do you have a phone?
I do.
Well, let's go right into that, and then we'll loop back to John's report after that. It's the next page in the packet.
Yeah, so another memo in front of you. There we go. Supplement to the Buildings and Grounds Report, FY23 encumbrances. On your agenda, it's listed as tentative for discussion. So we'll ask you for encumbrance decisions at your next meeting, your June meeting. So this is so you can start thinking about some of these things, talk, ask questions, do whatever you want tonight without having to make decisions. But the first one is about the phone system, the voice over IP system. So we have, Matt can fill in details if you're interested in more technical information. But if we upgrade the phone system at Alton Central School, and we use the same provider we already use for our other two schools, then the phone systems in all 4 of our buildings, the 3 schools and the SAU office, could be set up as if they were the same system. So anybody in any building could pick up a handset, dial an extension, and it would ring in any of our other buildings. Might seem like a small thing, but would be pretty convenient for some of us. We need to do a voice over IP project in this building as soon as we can anyway. In the expenditure report that's in the packet, I'm not sure about the updated one, there's still over $99,000 in the technology function that hasn't been spent yet this year. So it's not a matter of finding the money or not having the money. We do have the money, it's already budgeted. I would look for you to approve the project primarily because it's a single source, and in our procurement policy, if we're spending more than $10,000, we're supposed to issue an RFP, go out to bid, and then you would vote to accept either the lowest bid or the recommended bid, which may not always be the lowest. So in this case, it's $13,395, so it triggers that requirement. But because the whole point is to use the same vendor and have the same setup as the other schools, we're allowed to not follow that policy. We just have to have a good reason, and that constitutes a good reason. So I would look for you to take action on that if you're willing to, or ask questions if you have them, or both.
Do you want a motion?
Right, I think it sounds like a no-brainer.
You want to do it, ma'am?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I make a motion that we allocate funds from the current budget
Yep.
for the installation of the IP voice telephone system.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. You want to just keep going through this
Yeah.
memo? So you've already accepted a bid for an ESSER-funded HVAC project. You all remember this one. The base project is the gymnasium, and we added the hallway and the art and music rooms behind it as part of that. The total is $389,735. You don't have to take action on this. You already did earlier in the year, but I'm just kind of trying to refresh your memories. Of that, we expect to have about, and this is a little inexact because it's a grant program, but about $306,655. That's our current estimate from the grant, which leaves you with $73,880 that we're likely to ask you next month to encumber from surplus, and then I'll suggest a contingency on top of that. So that would be a total of $93,337, $73,880 for the project, and then $19,487 as a 5% contingency on the whole thing. At the time we were preparing those bid specifications, some members of the board were very interested in making sure we got a price for the hallway and classrooms that extend from the gymnasium, from in between the gymnasium and the front offices in that direction. So it's 6 classrooms on both sides of that hallway and the hallway itself. That's actually a different air handling unit that would be placed outside. It's probably a different gas tank. So when we did the RFP, we structured it as an alternate to the bid, which allows us to accept the base bid, which you've already done, which is the gym, music, and art areas, and then have this alternate bid that we're allowed to accept and trigger in addition to that if we want to. So we haven't done that because that number came in, sorry, because that number came in at $316,250. And since we had about $300,000 in the grant, we thought, gee, that's a lot. So we didn't work on it, or we didn't move on that at the time. However, if your projected surplus, and I know it's tentative, and this is how this works, for another month we're not quite sure, is $750,000-ish, you might decide that you want to accept the alternate and add that in. And if you did, because the roof might need some reinforcement, the engineer and bidder put in sort of a estimate. There's $30,000 in the price for roof reinforcements. I would recommend a higher contingency, a 10% contingency, which is probably excessive. And that would bring the total, now I'm down to the A and B at the bottom, that would make the total $441,212 to be encumbered. So again, you'd have to make a decision tonight. I'm not asking you to do this tonight. I want you to understand your choices and your options as we go into this next month, because we will need to make a decision at that time, because after June 30th, we can't encumber from this budget. So I won't express an opinion. That's that. How's that? Keep going, or let you talk about that? Do you want to talk about it? Not right now. Building security, I have, so the paragraph on the memo kind of summarizes everything we've done, starting with new crisis plans that you may recall we wrote at the end of the summer and last fall, CRACE training for all staff back in October, security audits by the Department of Homeland Security at each school I have this, almost everything we do is a public record. This is an exception. So these are printed copies of the security audit findings from the Department of Homeland Security. If any of you are interested, I have copies. You can have them. It is a confidential document, so I would just ask that you keep it that way. And just grab one from me after the meeting if you want to. I've asked the principals and facilities directors to look through those, and if there's anything related to building security in the audit findings that we should add to our encumbrance requests, you'll see that in June. So that's just a heads up for you. That if it happens, that's where it's coming from. We're not just making things up. Oh, and we have an entirely new access control system coming in because we did receive what was called a SAFE grant. It's an acronym, but I don't know what it means, from the Department of Homeland Security in the amount of about $50,000, give or take, to swap out all of the access control hardware and software. We'll have a new badge system with badge readers instead of fobs to get in and out of the building. We'll have more access points. We'll have more video phones or air phones. I think we'll be able to buzz the back door, which currently the front office can't do. And there will also be a sliding window, a service window between the main office and that vestibule where you enter the building, so that people who don't need to be in the building, who just need to do business with the front office, will be able to do that from the vestibule without being admitted to the building at all. So that's all grant funded.
That's great.
No effect on our budget. So I think that's all the security stuff that I have here. And then finally, an update on the status of our heating repairs due to the frozen pipes and some of the other problems we had with the weather in the ERC wing. It's still with the engineers, both ours and Primex, our insurer. They send projects like this to their engineering team, and they go through their own procurement in order to make sure that they agree with the amount that we think we need to spend. So it's possible, and we hope it's by next month, we really want it to be by next month, that we'll bring you the results of a bid that we hope to have out on the street shortly, that'll tell us how much we want to spend for what our engineers have come up with to repair this stuff, and the results of what Primex has done that tells us how much they will cover. If there's a gap between those two numbers, then we get to have a conversation about that in June, which, depending on where you want to go with that conversation, we could do in public or non-public, because if we feel like there's, one of your options is to add some money, but another one of your options is to say something else to Primex, and we could discuss that in non-public if we needed to. But I'm not expecting bad news. I just want you to be, again, prepared for what may come. We just don't know. And the first small miracle will be having all those numbers by your next meeting.
Yeah.
That's our goal.
We're gonna be here for 3 hours that night?
Well, no, it shouldn't be that bad, but, I mean, we're going to need heat next winter, so we've got to get this done at some point. We have a few months.
We needed it last month. What are you talking about next month? Jeez.
And then the roof replacement, I don't think we need to talk about. You've got it under action items, and you have a memo on that that's separate.
Did you want to mention about the boiler?
Oh, yeah, we had an emergency when it rains. So last week, we had a little emergency. One of our hot water heaters in the school failed
I noticed that.
with a related expansion tank. So commercial hot water heaters and expansion tanks are not inexpensive. And codes have changed since these were installed, so we get to spend an extra few $1,000s meeting current code. We're going to spend a total of, we think, under $25,000. The work's already being done. And then when you turn the faucet, the hot water should come out. And because of your budget situation, it's not like we're coming asking for a line transfer or anything like that, because we have the money.
So it sounds like there'll be a lot of what-ifs and stuff for the June meeting, so if I could ask, maybe once you have all this information,
Yep.
if we could get it prior to the meeting versus at the meeting, just to kind of, even if it's like a week ahead of time, to process it
Yep.
all and be able to speak to it versus getting it. the night
Certainly.
before.
No, and it's a lot of ifs and maybes tonight, but my goal for June would be that it isn't, that it's numbers,
Right.
numbers.
Yeah, so if we could just see it like prior to the meeting, that would be awesome.
As soon as we have them all.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all of that.
That's great.
information. Principals report, John.
Sure. I'm going to skip the redundant stuff that's already been covered by Tim and Matt, except for the thank you for PTSA that really needs to go out there. Truly, the communication has been phenomenal, and today's just the start of just a fantastic week of things for staff, where we're sort of interspersing some of the admin team stuff in with the PTSA. It's just above and beyond. I was saying breaking records, getting people to the breakfast this morning was awesome, going around covering classes. It was just a great team, so I appreciate it very much. So, okay. So Mountaineer Madness was awesome. If you check the Facebook page at all, you'll see a lot of this documented already. The schoolyard habitat grant at our staff meeting, which we postponed from tonight till next Monday. Obviously, for obvious reasons, we couldn't get staff in here tonight. But one of the things Courtney's going to be talking about is expanding the team for this, to use and design this grant and to involve as many, obviously, students, staff, community as possible. So that's coming. The field trip was a success with Barnstead. The weather even cooperated. They got to be outside after, so that was a nice little treat considering all the rain we've been having. Testing's done. The Scholastic Book Fair, which is why we're in here tonight, starts tomorrow. So it's an event we obviously love here. The STEM bus is coming on May 18th. That's pretty awesome to work with our 7th and 8th graders. Just another plug for the Education Enrichment Expo on the 25th from 5 to 8. Shuttle bus has been confirmed for overflow parking at the high school. All sorts of new stuff. I just got something from either Derek or Scott today about our cheerleading group coming in. So there's going to be a whole bunch of really cool events, very different from what we've seen before or a typical type of like a fair. Other thing is that our pre-K screening is on the 10th of this week, 9:30 to 12:30, just a reminder. Tiger came in last week. Their theme was Choose Love, so they did presentations and workshops for our kids. It was another great presentation. And the last one, if you haven't checked out Facebook, on Friday we had a very special guest at our school who worked with our fishing elective and teaching them beyond the worm dunk is to do some fly fishing, and it was great to see Dr. Broderick as well as our Mr. Perrin, Mr. Major, and all of our students learning how to fly fish. It was truly cool. Fishing Game supplied the fly rods, and we had our local resident expert come in and give a master class. So it was just a really good time, very much appreciated, and another fun time here at Alton Central School.
It was a good time, that much is true.
There were lots of smiles. Beyond frustration of tangled lines, which did, because it was yarn, it was good. The kids were way more into it than I think expected. It was good. I want to see them with hooks, and I want to see them out there.
Careful.
And I kind of want to join them.
So is the 8th grade promotion night the 21st?
Yes, the 8th grade promotion night is the 21st, the day before. Rain or shine. So obviously, we're looking to do it outside, but if it rains, we'll do it in the gym. But the plan is to go outside.
So you're going to do the late night piece with the screen again, or are you going to?
Nope.
No?
Nope,
Okay.
no screens, no screens. That's
That's done?
COVID.
Okay.
We're going with,
Earlier and then,
yeah.
oh, that's nice for older people like me. Just thought I'd mention that.
Come on. Yeah, so the 21st, we also have 8th grade events coming up. We did, special thank you to Board Member Locke. We were able to, I think what's going to happen is in future years, either partnering up with Mitina. Why that was never thought of before is beyond me, but they offer things. They just couldn't get us the dates we needed. So there's definitely going to be a beach day this year, as well as an extended day at White Lake later in June, which is going to be tons of fun for the kids, and including barbecue and all that. So
I'm happy.
awesome.
That's good.
Thank you, John.
We tried out at pretty much every camp around here, including Store, and we couldn't get dates. So.
Yeah, we try. Camp 19 is a great resource for our town.
Oh my goodness,
We
yes.
can get them down there.
The team was thrilled with all the different offerings they had there,
They do,
so.
they have a lot.
And they'll give us a discount because,
We're in Alton, right?
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the roof replacement bid.
So I handed out, Sean was able to meet with 4 roofing companies, and they're listed here. And I'm recommending Jalbert Contracting. I don't know if any of you have dealt with any of these roofing companies. Sean has not, so.
One on the list seems to have a really, just anecdotally throughout town, having managed the Facebook page over the years, which I don't anymore, but Paragon seems to have a really great reputation around town.
So if you'd rather, I'll leave it, we'll
I don't know
leave
if
it up to
anybody
you.
feels differently
They
or,
did my siding. They did a great job.
yeah.
They did my whole house siding, so they're reliable. I know that. You wanted the other because of a
Right, they're
warranty.
both from Alton.
Yeah, I mean, Sean was like, look at the warranties and see which
Mhm.
one.
What kind of
But they
warranty?
all have warranties, manufacturer warranties, they're all kind of the same, so that's why I'm leaving it, if you are familiar with any of these companies, please.
I'm very familiar with Paragon.
Yeah, I've never heard anything bad about them. I think I would lean in that direction.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we accept the bid from Paragon Roofing.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do they offer a warranty?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. When in doubt, look at the community page.
I don't know the other company.
I've just watched it over the years.
Albert, I've never heard of them.
The FY '22 audit is next on the list.
Yep, so we finally have a final draft. I do have books, if any of you want a copy of it. I think it was put up electronically as well to take a look at. There was only one item for the
Sorry.
federal grants. We were missing an employee that was federally funded. We didn't have the proper paperwork for like a time card or a semi-cert, so we're working on that. That was the only item. The other thing I wanted to mention is we are getting an adverse opinion on the general fund because we have not recorded any long-term costs of retirement health care or other post-employment benefits. In order for this to happen, I have to we have to hire an actuary to prepare a valuation report. So I asked the auditor, she sent me 4 companies to reach out to. I reached out to all 4, 2 responded. It's about $2,500 extra for the big report. They'll have to do 2 years' worth of valuations, and then that will help us with having a clean opinion. And that was it.
Okay, great.
That's pretty good.
We have a motion to approve the audit.
I make a motion to approve the audit.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. General assurances. Oh, the general assurances again.
Third and last time for this year.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna
Second
say.
and last, second and last for you.
It's quite a weighty document.
Yeah,
I have to confess, I didn't read it.
Yeah, you have to initial and sign that one.
yeah, yeah. Lauren, have you seen this yet? I don't know, did we do it last week?
Someone at the high school.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'll look for a motion to approve the general assurances.
I make a motion to approve the general assurances FY 2024.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we need to sign that. Personnel report.
I have a memo on the table for you with 2 items on it. I also have a job description. I understand this board has a past practice of approving job descriptions. I like to revise job descriptions, so if you want to be in the business of approving them, I have one for you tonight and more to come.
I'm good with allowing administration to approve
I
job
think we can
descriptions.
allow
You
that.
guys good with that? Okay.
You got it.
Chickens.
I had a question about the personnel.
Does it need to be a non-public, or is it a public? Okay,
I think it can be public.
okay.
I just wondered why 6 of the co-curricular positions are not to exceed 200, but the other 2 are only, are less.
I wondered the same thing. Yeah,
Thank you.
I did.
Deb, go ahead.
I'm not sure on that one.
It's due to the number of sessions they're doing,
Okay,
and it may not be all the same number of nights or days during the week.
okay.
So one may be an 8-week course, one could be a 6-week course.
That's, as long as it's their choice and we're not limiting them. So,
It's the program itself.
that's fine. Thank you.
So, looking at, yeah, let's do this one first, and then we'll go over the memo.
So I make a motion to approve the co-curricular nominations.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I saw it online today.
And, on the, we'll wait for professional staff for a minute. It's the handout, or is that handout from last time?
So that
Is that
is,
referred
that
to
is
as-
this. So
okay.
we've done nominations. These are the only non-union salaries you have to set in this building.
Okay, so I would go ahead and approve those as a slate, unless anybody has questions.
No. I make a motion to approve the proposed salary adjustments for non-union employees. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Now, the final item, I think you have your choice of public or non-public. It's appropriate in either case. It would be under Section A of the law if you choose to go to non-public.
I think I'd like to go to non-public for that, but make the announcement in public that,
You've got to accept that.
yeah, Assistant Principal Jim Lafreniere has given his notice to retire.
The end of this school year.
Yeah, sadly,
Yeah. Everybody's
Um,
given us
Which you
one.
should accept in the minutes.
which we should
Yep.
accept. So we'll need a motion for that.
Make a motion to accept the resignation with regrets of Assistant Principal James Lafreniere.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then there's some details we'll discuss in non-public. And I'll save that for the end. I think, is that it under personnel?
So for
Yes.
me, good.
Okay. Did we get everything? Okay, I think that's it under public session. We have our second public input, if anybody would like to offer any public input? Nobody? Guys. With that, I'll take a motion to go into, I'll close public input and take a motion to go into non-public. And I think it's printed here on the
I
blue.
make a motion to go into non-public RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, I.
I'll second. Oh, I'll second, why not?
Okay, so we'll do it by roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes.